Welcome to PWE Music. I'm Dr. Patrick Engler, and today we're going to be giving our low clarinet friends some love as we start the Clarinet Masterclass series for the low clarinet etudes for the TMEA All-State 2023 auditions. And today we'll be starting with the first selection, Etude number 8 from the Rose 32 Etudes. And as always, we will be using, make sure it's the right page, the David Height edition, as we do with the TMEA Etudes. So diving in, and this is going to be applicable to all the low clarinet etudes. Bear in mind that these were written with soprano clarinet in mind, which is a little bit nimbler, a little bit easier to play fast, and a little less resistant than your typical bass clarinet. You also might have a little bit more difficulty with the adjustment on an instrument, especially if you're using a school instrument. So just stay positive, don't get down on yourself if you're having trouble. Just stick to your game plan, do the best that you can. These weren't written with bass clarinet in mind, and so you might have a little bit more difficulty with some things than our soprano clarinet friends might. But first thing with Etude 8 specifically is we want to have a nice strong start. The first note, that long middle B, is just a bad resistant note on bass clarinet. That's the truth of it, and so what's going to help you out the most is dig into that dynamic. We have mezzo forte, so don't be afraid. Make it nice and strong. Make sure you have a good breath to start and you're giving lots of air support, and really work on having a strong first note start. Just be able to hit that B and take off running rather than coming into it a little bit weakly and meekly and then having something go wrong and then you set the tone in a negative manner for the whole thing. Start strong, set the tone in the way that you want, and you're off to the races. Second, as we continue forward, this etude's going to need a lot of air. We have a lot of playing in the upper register. We have a lot of articulation. We have a lot of leaps. And this is tough enough on soprano clarinet. When we translate that to low clarinet, you're going to need to really plan out where you're breathing. Make sure that you're always going to have some air ready to go. Don't try and spread yourself too thin. Be conservative, plan your breaths in, and put in probably more than you think you need, because as always, when we get into a tense situation, like when you're in the audition room, your air supply is going to go away much faster than you expect. So be conservative, plan in extra breaths. If you need it, it's there, and then you're not having to improvise and catch up when you're in a pressure situation. Number 3, keep your pace. So I say this about a lot of the technical etudes. Everyone wants to come in and play it as fast as it's ever been played before. That's not the way to do it. Pick a goal tempo, work towards that. Again, you want to be conservative, pick something that you can do that's going to result in a rhythmically tight and controlled performance. Everything should really sound effortless, and I know that's much harder when we're talking about low clarinet, just because you have a lot more technical motion going on than soprano clarinet, say. But that's kind of the territory that comes with a lower instrument, is that you have to make up for those bigger deficiencies. So we want something that's going to sound effortless, be rhythmically tight, controlled. It shouldn't sound strained, and if you can keep something nice and controlled and work towards your pace, you're going to have a better chance of achieving everything and not getting yourself into trouble by going too fast. Number 4, we want to work on a nice light articulation. Now again, a lot of what I'm saying is that it are things that are tough for lower clarinets. And you may know this or you may not know this, but that's why we're going over it. And articulation is one of those things that lower clarinets just have trouble with because you don't practice it as much in your band rep or what you're doing for your band class than a higher clarinet. So if there's one fundamental thing you really want to work towards in this, it's work on lightening up that articulation. If you can get through all these articulation patterns with a nice light tongue and just kind of doing as little as possible in terms of motion and separating the notes, you're going to have a much better chance of getting through this without slowing down. And on top of just having a better resultant sound by having lighter articulation, you're also going to decrease the chances of some of these upper register notes squeaking. A lot of our squeak come from when our tongue is moving around too much on the inside of the mouth and the voicing and the embouchure shift, and what happens? We get a squeak. So we can work on keeping the back of the tongue still and just what you need to do for voicing, and just using the front of the tongue, going for a nice light articulation. You have the best chance of success and getting it to sound just like you want to. So I know we covered those pretty quickly, but that about covers it for the big picture items on this etude. If you have specific questions, don't be afraid to throw them in the comments. As always, like, subscribe, do all the things. They're greatly appreciated. If you so inclined, go check out the Patreon, and we'll see you in the next one. If you made it this far, thanks for watching through the entire video. I hope it was helpful. Normally this is where I have a card with links to my Patreon and my Etsy, but I wanted to take a second to give you an idea of what you're going to find at both of those. For my Patreon, there's one level, $5 a month, and that's to help keep these videos coming out. I know lessons can be expensive, and I want this information to be able to be found regardless of your situation, whether you can take lessons or not. The $5 a month also gets you access to a PWE Music Discord server, which, if it's not up when you're watching this video, it should be soon. And as of right now, that's just an opportunity to ask me questions, get my thoughts on things, and hopefully as the community grows, you'll be able to get in touch with clarinetists and musicians from around the world. At my Etsy shop, you'll find custom woodworking, and applicable to this are custom reed cases. So, as a woodworker, I enjoy making accessories for musical instruments, and everybody should have a reed case if you don't. And not that you need to have a fancy custom one, but I do offer 3D printed reed cases as well as custom wood cases. So hopefully you'll check out either one, give some support to the channel, and I'll keep these videos coming.